Jason Vaughn here with CreativePublic.com. We're going to discuss accounting software. Basically what you're going to need for accounting software, a lot of designers do everything by hand. You hear me discuss this in another video under the job tracking system as well. But I really recommend getting away from the hand type, keeping track of your notes, using Excel for your invoices or whatever, and doing everything kind of an archaic kind of way. You really need to decide and get you a program such as QuickBooks Pro, or even use Quicken for Business, or Peachtree or MYOB software. You can find each one of these at QuickBooks.com, Peachtree.com, and MYOB.com. Peachtree, I think, may be only for PC, QuickBooks, Mac and PC, and MYOB is for both Mac and PC. MYOB is probably the most economical of the bunch, but they all seem to do pretty well. I personally use QuickBooks Pro, and the advantage of having an accounting system is, number one, you're able to send the files over to your accountant so that they can actually easily and more cheaply actually get your taxes ready. So otherwise, if you hand them a bunch of receipts and a bunch of invoices and say, here, figure this out, it makes it much harder. Plus, if you've got all these receipts and you're out purchasing stuff, you enter them to QuickBooks, and you got all these clients coming in, you enter them into QuickBooks, and you get all the invoices set up, you can see your profit and losses and see where you're losing and where you're gaining and where your expenses are going. Plus, you can keep track of owner investments, owner draws, and keep track of just about everything that you need to, depreciation of your equipment, software, and all that for your business. But the best thing about having an accounting system is being able to keep track of your money. Keep track of what's in your bank account, you're spending on your credit cards and your debit cards. And then find out who still owes you money and who paid their deposits, who didn't pay their deposits. It's so crucial to keep track of your money, because if you don't keep track of your money, you really get into a big jam. Because you got to stay on top of these kind of things. And if you got a pile of invoices sitting over here that you've written up by hand or you put in your Excel thing, and you're not able to have some type of an alert system to help you on a reminder saying, hey, this needs to be paid, especially if you're doing a lot of jobs. If you're doing like 2 or 3 a month or something, it's technically not that big a deal. But if you're really starting to do a lot of work and having 15, 20 jobs a month or more, you got to find some way to keep track of your accounting system and your business, because otherwise you're going to wind up getting yourself in a big jam. And you never want to get into a financial jam, because that's going to be extremely painful and you're not going to be able to do business very well. But if you feel comfortable with what you're doing, I'm not going to try to keep you from doing it, but I think you should really look at investing in one of these. Now, sometimes these programs can get pretty complicated, but try to keep to the basics. You don't have to get into every single issue of the software and how it does this and that, or doing general ledgers or whatever. Try to keep things basic. This MYOB is probably one of the more basics. I think it's a little simpler than QuickBooks, but MYOB wasn't around when I started my business way back a long time ago in the early 90s, so QuickBooks was around and that's what we used. So I'm real familiar with it now. I'm not the greatest, I don't consider myself an accountant, but I'm able to keep track of my invoices and estimates if I decide to track estimates that way. Now, however, though, I do not track most of my estimates with inside QuickBooks. I do a lot of my estimating just strictly by email. You'll be able to find some of those estimates on the estimate section under accounting and pricing on the forms and contracts area, and you'll be able to download sample estimates that I put together. The reason why I don't track them in QuickBooks most of the time is because I'm just getting estimates out there to clients to try to get them to do business with me. So entering them into QuickBooks, you had to create a job, or create a customer profile, create a job, and then set up the estimates like that. So it just starts to really make everything kind of clumsy and cumbersome. And if that client never does business with you, you've taken all this time to set up this information. However, though, if you have a good client that's always there all the time, it's really kind of good to keep track of your estimates with inside the accounting program, because then you can always reference back to that with inside that software. But I'd only recommend for doing those type of estimates within QuickBooks or the accounting system if you have a regular client that you're doing business with. But if you're out there just trying to throw out bids and all that stuff, send them by email, set you up a Word document and throw them in a folder or something like that and keep track of it that way. Because otherwise you're spending too much time trying to create jobs and things of that nature. Another good advantage of QuickBooks that I use is the time tracking feature. So if I did have employees, I'm also able to track employee times. They're also able to log in as well too. So it's just me. So basically what I do is I go up every day, open up my time deal, start keeping track of time. I don't have a clock so I can record, a digital clock where I can press start and start recording for my time. I take a general idea of what's on the clock. I'll bill by the quarter hour, and sometimes bill by the half hour. It just depends on the client. Even sometimes I bill only by the hour, and I don't deviate from that. It just depends on the customer, budgets, and how loyal they are to me. But on the average, I bill on by the quarter hour. And so what I do is I go into the time deal Every time I work on a job, for the day, I go ahead and write that time in. So it allows me to select the client, put the time, select what type of project I'm working on, web design. Did I do revisions? Then I can put that information on. It took me 2 hours for revisions, and I have a notes section. So I changed text on page 3, whatever, something like that. Then you can keep going down and keep adding more different types of relevant information for a different job, and then you can keep track of time for what you're doing for each one of those things, like design time, revisions, changes, proofs, or whatever. And then one good advantage is you can either not bill it or you can bill it. So if you already put them a flat rate fee, you don't actually have to bill for your time, but you want to keep track of it. And you always need to keep track of your time so you know exactly how long it's taking you to do a particular project, and that'll help you determine your pricing. Because if you're just kind of guessing and whatever, throwing it out there, it's like, oh, here's a price. Then you wind up feeling later on that, oh man, I spent too much time on this, I didn't really get paid enough. Well, that's where the time tracking comes into place, and that's why these programs, especially QuickBooks and MYOB, have the time tracking. Again, I'm not sure about Peachtree, but it allows you to see where you're spending your time. And then if you decide to bill strictly on an hourly basis, you put that information in, click on bill, set up their invoice, and it'll automatically put everything in for you, and it keeps track of things, really efficiently. So I highly recommend doing some type of accounting program, and hope you will see the benefits of it and get away from the antiquated older systems, and it will help work with your accounting system better, and you can or your accountant, and be able to do your taxes a whole lot easier. All right, thank you.